We'll call this first meeting of the 2025-2026 Salary Commission to order. I'm Clerk Kevin Moss, so I'll do a roll call and then we'll do some introductions. So Masood Rashid?
Yes, my name is Masood Rashid. I am, what do you want me to tell you as
That's all you have to
present?
say now.
If roll
Perfect.
call it is, then I'm present.
Excellent. Faisal Azim?
Yes, I'm here.
Where's that? Medea Had Abjad?
Madiha Amjad, present.
And Ibrahim Abdabi?
Yes, my name is Ibrahim Abdi, and I'm here.
Perfect. So you have a quorum there. So now we can, I'll turn it over to Tony to do some introductions of everyone and get us started.
Great, thank you. So welcome to this orientation for the Salary Commission for this year. Let's start with doing a round of introductions. I will start and then I can invite the county staff to introduce themselves. And then if we could have each of you introduce yourself. And if you could share your name and your role with the commission in terms of the staff. And then for the Salary Commission members, if you could share just anything you'd like to introduce yourself to the group. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. So my name is Tony Tabora. I am a local consultant facilitator working a lot in the community with different agencies and groups, doing a lot of facilitation of processes. And so I will be the facilitator for the Salary Commission throughout this process over the next month or so, and supporting these meetings and the process of bringing the recommendation to the board, and also working really in partnership with whoever becomes the chair and vice chair to help support them in presiding over the meetings. So that'll be my role. I can say more later on towards the end of the meeting. Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. I'll go next. So my name's Kevin Moss. I'm the clerk to the board to the county commissioners and the county administrative office. So I handle all of their meetings and public meetings law for them with their documents and agendas. So I've been supporting the Salary Commission since we put this in effect in 2021. So I'm happy to have a bunch of new faces to help with this process. So welcome all.
Thank you.
Adriana, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Adriana Ortega. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm the Labor and Employment County Counsel here in the Office of County Counsel. And I'll be here today providing a presentation regarding some of the laws that govern your service on the Salary Commission. And first and foremost, thank you very much for serving on the commission.
Thank you. Great. Can we have Madiha, would you like to start? And then maybe you could pick the next person to go after you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Madiha Amjad. We have been living in Beaverton since the last 8 years. My husband, I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son. My background is in finance and accounting, but currently I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I do like to volunteer whenever I get time. I've been involved previously with other activities too. Over to Faisal.
Thanks, Madia. My full name is Mohammed Faisal Azim. I go by Faisal. By education and training, I am an electrical engineer. My wife and I have been in Oregon area for almost 25 years now. We have 2 daughters. Excited to be able to volunteer in this. Masood, over to you.
My name is Masood Rashid. I am also an electrical engineer, but unlike Faisal, I do not practice electrical engineering. I manage a team of engineers who do the facilities for the buildings. I've been also in the Oregon, Washington area for almost 25, 26 years, and been involved in various community organizations for almost that long time. So yeah, so I've been yeah. So pretty much that's it. So who is next? I cannot really see. Ibrahim, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Ibrahim Abdi. I lived in Oregon for almost 25 years now. I graduated from Portland State. My major was social work and international studies, and I work for the Department of Human Services. I manage cases, about 200 cases, and I like to volunteer and do things different than what I do and see what I could do to make the community better.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. So we do have a couple more folks, I think, that we're hoping may arrive or will come to the future meetings. But I'm going to hand it over to Adriana to get us started. And then, yeah, she has a lot of things to go over with you. So thanks, Adriana.
Sure thing. Thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen, Kevin, for the presentation, or is that something that you do?
No, you can share.
I can do that? Okay. All right. Let's see. Choose what to share. Okay, sorry. We usually use Teams, so I'm not used to this. No. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right. So as I mentioned, my name is Adriana Ortega. I work in County Council. My area of expertise is labor and employment, but I was asked to give a presentation to you fine folks regarding some of the general laws and rules that apply to your work on the Salary Commission. We have quite some material to go over today, as was mentioned. And I would say that there are three primary buckets that we will be going over. The first one is just to give you a sense of the role of the Salary Commission and its history. The second would be the rules and guidelines, specifically the State Code of Ethics, which is very important. Some important policies at the county, which are probably familiar to some of you if you worked really in any company. And then thirdly, the discussion about public records and public meetings. And this is not something that a private corporation or company would be subject to. It is something unique to public agencies. And so I will try to focus on that material because I suspect it'll be new unless you've already served on a commission. This may be just a review for you. And then finally, we will go over your governing document, which are the bylaws. And hopefully you've received that or you've taken a look at it. This is the document that's going to tell you and is going to answer questions when you have them regarding how to do things, how to take action, what your responsibility is as opposed to the board. So we'll go over the major highlights of that, bearing in mind that it's not a document that you need to memorize or anybody really needs to memorize because you can always come back and refer to that. So the role and history of the Salary Commission. So it was drafted pursuant to the county charter, section 30. And prior to 2008, the commission salary was set by budget from a base salary that was set in the charter. Increases were specifically stated not to be able to exceed inflation. Thereafter, the chair's salary was 80% of that of a circuit court judge, and district commissioners were 40% of the chair's salary. In 2020, the board issued an amendment specifying or creating your salary commission and specifying the role of the members to establish the salaries of the commissioners. Here are some of the items that were listed in the order that was issued by the Commission in 2020. And then here is also some information regarding the individuals that first served in 2021. I myself joined the county in September of 2021, so I wasn't here when this order was issued or implemented, but subsequently I was able to serve on or rather to provide counsel during one of the meetings in 2021. So there's that. So sorry, this slide was a little bit out of order. So ethics. I understand that you all submitted an application, and actually let me backtrack. So under the state of Oregon ethics rules, volunteers are covered as public officials. And the state of Oregon ethics rules govern the behavior of public officials. Specifically, there's a prohibition that a public official, and that includes me and every other employee at the county, cannot use their office for personal gain. So any other employee cannot make any sort of representation to a member of the public to say, hey, if you give me X, I can do Y for you. That is explicitly prohibited by the laws, by the ethical laws. Also, in order to avoid any appearance of impropriety, there is a limit that individuals can only gift something to you where the cost is less than $50. So anything beyond that would be contrary to the rules. I guess the example is, if you go to a coffee shop and somebody knows that you're a member of the commission, you can accept that cup of coffee or whatnot. But any gift that exceeds $50 would be a violation of the rules. The application that you filled out did ask about whether you had any conflict of interest. And so, conflict of interest would be a situation where you would have some personal relationship either with any of the commissioners. And so hopefully you all listed on there that there was no actual conflict. There may be a situation where a potential or an actual conflict arises down the line. And that what that means is that you're in a position where you could use your role as a salary commission to benefit either yourself or your relatives. And so that is also contrary to the law. Each one of us is responsible for identifying any actual or potential conflict of interest. And to take action. Typically, the recommended action is to disclose that actual or potential conflict. In this case, you would disclose it to your members and to the Board of Commissioners so that there can be a determination about whether that conflict is going to prohibit you from taking action on a particular matter or situation. There is a super helpful guideline, which is listed there in blue. And so you can refer to that if you have any specific questions about whether your situation is potentially a violation of our ethics rules. Okay. And I can't see you, so if you have any questions, please feel free to just chime in. All right, moving on to some important policies that apply to all of us here at the county. The most important among them being Policy 301, which is our anti-discrimination, harassment, and retaliation policy. And again, this is something that you probably encountered in your jobs. Most employers do have this type of policy. And as stated on here on the slide, it prohibits all forms of workplace discrimination, harassment, sexual assault, and retaliation. It defines workplace discrimination, harassment, sexual assault, and retaliation, and it establishes procedures for creating and maintaining a work environment that is free of discrimination, harassment, sexual assault, or retaliation. We are required to respond to reports that are made to us regarding any of these allegations. And it's important, again, to note that it applies to all of us. It applies to me, it applies to Kevin, and likewise, by extension, it applies to you while you conduct this work for the county on the Salary Commission. The goal of this policy in particular, of course, is to create a workplace that is fair for everybody, civil and respectful of everybody's individuality. And likewise, on the other end, if you feel that you are being subject to any sort of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, please do raise it to the county, either Kevin, myself, or anybody else that you trust, so that we can look into it. All right. The second policy is the political participation policy. And this is currently listed in our personnel rules and regulations under Article 13.1, and it relates to political activity. It's governed by a statute that says that public employees cannot participate in political activity. So looking at the statute, it says that a public employee may not, while on the job during working hours, promote or oppose election petitions, candidates, political committee, or ballot measures. Additionally, no person, including elected officials, may require a public employee at any time to do so. What this statute and policy seek to do is to maintain a workplace that is free of political political influence. Of course, we all have our political opinions, and we can share those freely outside of the workplace or outside of the work that we do, but we cannot either attempt to influence each other or influence public employees to take any sort of action during the performance of their work. So that is an important policy. It, of course, applies to you and to myself, again, applies to everybody. And there's a helpful guide also that the Secretary of State puts out regarding those situations where you have to be careful about either engaging in any sort of political or advocating any political view. So I do recommend that you look at that document as it is very helpful.
Adriana, how does this
Yes.
apply to us? Does this apply only during the time we are in meetings, or does it apply outside of that also?
Yeah, that's a good question. It only applies to you when you are acting or taking any sort of action on behalf of the county or your service on the Salary Commission. If you're on your personal time with your friends, or if you belong to some other, I don't know, if you volunteer at any other organization, then that is your personal time. You can do whatever you want. But when you speak, it is important to distinguish when you are speaking as an individual as opposed to speaking as a member of the Salary Commission. Is that helpful?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now I wanted to talk about public meetings and records. And this is near and dear to my heart for several reasons. I've worked in public government for a long time, up to, I think, almost 20 years now, and have an appreciation for the importance of the work that we do and for the public's right to know how business is conducted at the different agencies. In Oregon in particular, we have a very strong statute that confirms, affirms, makes everybody aware that our form of government requires that the public be informed and that the public is aware about how decisions are made. And so it is the intent of this law, which is ORS 1, Chapter 192, that any and all decisions taken by governing bodies be arrived at openly. And so that applies to public agencies. Again, it wouldn't apply to a private company, for example, but because we are a public agency, the majority of the information that we process is subject to public disclosure. So any member of the public can ask for these documents, and we are required to disclose them. Now, there are certain limited exceptions, mostly surrounding safety, security, and of course, the privilege of attorney-client advice. And so those are the limited exceptions. I don't foresee those applying in your situations, but I think this kind of sets the stage of how you will perform your work, and the fact that all of the decisions that you take, the statements that you make, can be subject to public viewing and public disclosure. So the public meetings law applies to a quorum of the governing body or a public body. A public body includes state agencies, regional government, counties, of course, and cities, special districts, and municipal corporations. And then, of course, boards, commissions, subcommittees, and advisory groups.
Adriana, quick question.
Yes.
On the last previous slide that we talked about, that the meetings are information will be available to the public. How much of our information, name, phones, any other thing will be available to public?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. I do know that for employees, there's a specific provision that safeguards our private information. So I imagine for you, it would be the same, but let me research that. I think there is a good argument to keep that information, private in the sense that we would not disclose it. It may, some of it may already be out there, but we would not be required to disclose it. I will research that and get back to you the next time. Does that work?
Thank you.
All right. So public meetings law, what is it? A public meeting is the convening of any governing body for which a quorum is required to make a decision or deliberate toward a decision on any matter. There was a case that just passed in 2023 that really tightened down the definition of what a quorum is. And so as you can see here on the statute, it talks about gathering in a physical location, using electronic, video, or telephonic technology to be able to communicate contemporaneously among participants, using serial electronic written communication among participants, or using an intermediary to communicate among participants. And so the goal of this is to ensure that anytime that individuals that are subject to the public meetings law are in any way communicating with each other or having conversations that impact a decision that they're going to make, that information is covered by public meetings law and is subject to disclosure.
Adriana, the first part
Yes.
is somewhat clear to me. What's like convening of a governing body? What does it mean that a quorum is required to make a decision? That means that some of the meetings are considered public meeting and some are not if no decision is being made?
So in order for all of these, for a meeting to constitute a public meeting, all of these factors need to be met. So a good example, and I think this answers your question, but let me know if it doesn't. A good example would be, for example, if two of either of you meet each other at a coffee shop and happen to be there, and you're talking about a situation where you're going to make a decision, that could constitute a public meeting. If you're just talking about the weather or you're talking about your kids, that's obviously not going to be a conversation that leads to making a decision. So it would not be covered by public meetings law.
I see. So let's say that we are meeting to understand what the previous boards have done, but we are not planning on making any decision. In that case, that would not be considered a public meeting.
If you're just meeting to talk about
review some information
Yeah.
or do some research, discuss some research, but not planning on making any decision, then it's not a public meeting.
Correct. If you're not going to make any decision or decide any matter, then it would not be a public meeting.
I also have a question, Adriana. If you said 2 people are meeting, but 2 people don't make the quorum, so how is that a public meeting then?
Yeah, Adriana, I can help here.
Okay, go ahead.
So yes, you're correct. Any 2 of you can meet and discuss anything you want. You just can't then talk to a 3rd member because that would constitute a meeting. So the previous Salary Commission created subcommittees of 2 people to work on external or internal comparators, and then they brought that information from their meeting back to this main body to discuss and formulate steps. So you can have your committees meet, but then you bring that information back to the public sphere to discuss and decide next steps as a whole committee.
Thanks.
Can I also add that I do think, though, any of these meetings, like even if we're not making a decision at this meeting, my understanding is we might be deliberating toward a decision. So I feel like this would constitute actually still a public meeting, even if we're not, well, we might be making a decision today, for example, on the timeline aspect of it. So I think this would be considered a public meeting, even if we're not making the final decision. So so maybe Adriana, you could check me on that.
Yeah, and you're right. The statute is written in a way that it talks about the roles of people and not necessarily what actually happened. So I think you're right. I confirm that you're correct. Yes. Thank you. All right. So under public meetings law, there is a requirement to provide notice. And according to your bylaws, you need to provide 72 hours notice of any meeting. And I understand that happened for this one, and that will happen for all other meetings. It must include a list of principal subjects and anticipated to be covered. The location must also be accessible and non-discriminatory. Public meetings, the law guarantees attendance and access of the public to that meeting, but not necessarily participation. So if there are members of the public who are interested in attending this or other meetings, they can attend, but they cannot necessarily participate. There are requirements for minutes and record keeping, written, audio, digital, or video. And the goal is that these notes or record keeping must be a true reflection of matters discussed and votes taken. So moving on to public records, as we discussed, who is subject to public records request? Everybody employed by the county, and by extension, individuals that are serving on a commission. That falls under all of the public bodies. And what are public records? Really, it is anything that's in writing that contains information relating to the conduct of the public's business, including but not limited to court records, mortgages, deed records, prepared, owned, used, or retained by a public body, regardless of physical form or characteristics. As I mentioned before, there are some limited exceptions. There's an exception specifically for the private information of employees. That's not information that's deemed to be necessary to be disclosed to the public. There are hundreds of other exceptions under different statutes. And of course, exceptions for attorney-client privilege. Public records are emails, text messages, chat messages, voicemails, handwritten notes, calendar entries, to-do and or task lists, audio or video recordings, photos, drawings, notes of meetings, and these are all included if they are still on the county server. And this also includes anything on somebody's personal device if it relates to county business. Now, I do understand that you all will be using your personal email to communicate. It is to communicate regarding salary commission business, and that does open up your whatever email that you're using to a public records request. So I do want to flag that. My recommendation on that would be that you have the majority of your communication, especially with decision making, be at the meetings, so that your entire email isn't subject to public disclosure. And I should be clear that this is probably very unlikely, but I have been in the situation where we received a public records request from the public asking, for example, for all emails relating to a particular subject. And I have had to go to the Board of Commissioners and to a couple of commissioners specifically to say, hey, hand over your phones because we received this public records request and now we need to conduct the search for the material that is being requested. I hope that doesn't happen to you, but just wanted to flag it as something that that could happen. Questions on that? So tips and tricks related to
sorry, going back, is there a recommendation to then use a different email from a personal email for communication and things like that? Like, what do you guys do normally, or what do commissioners normally do?
I don't know what other commissions normally do. Kevin, do you know?
So a lot of them do end up using the personal email. So what we've created is the salary commission email. So if two of you are in a subcommittee and you're doing it, all we ask is you copy that inbox on your communication. So that way your records are all captured there. So that would, limit the scope of your personal email because you're putting it to a county inbox that is archived for that. Some have created kind of just dummy emails, an extra one just to use or something. It's just not the most ideal situation, but it's just so hard for the county to create extra email accounts. It just it's there. But so we try to protect as much as we can.
Thanks.
I mean, another practice we can do is just make sure in any email that we send to each other will include salary commission in the subject line. That way, it'll be easy to capture. But if we also copy that email address, that would solve it as well.
Yeah. All right. So some tips to adopt is, or I guess just concepts to understand, is that all business must be transacted in public, primarily here in your meetings. No decisions can be made outside of the meeting. Avoid serial meetings. And that's like those serial emails where, there's an email that's sent out to the group and then you hit reply all, because then that constitutes a quorum and potentially decision making. Avoid using applications other than Teams or email for county related communications. And so I guess Teams maybe is not so much an issue for you if you don't have the county account, but and emails would be, I guess we just discussed about that. We do have limited email search tools. Again, since you're not having a county email, I don't think those would apply to you, but we are able to search, for example, when we get a public records request, all documents relating to this, particular term or particular decision. And it is important to know that when we deny a request for a public record, that can be appealed to the district attorney. and they get to weigh in on whether we properly denied the request or not. Okay. And going over to the commission bylaws, which again is your governing document. Important.
Could we pause for a moment? I just want to make, yeah, could we just pause and make sure there's no questions about those first two things, the role and all these rules and guidelines?
Sure.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead, Madiha, please.
I was just mentioning that somebody said we should have been emailed the bylaws, but I did not get any email or sent.
Okay, yes, so the bylaws were they are in the meeting packet and on the portal page that I can't remember if that was the link to that was included in the email that you received from Ann Ober.
It was included today's email, the email that was sent today or yesterday.
Oh, the reminder email?
Yes.
Okay.
So always you can look, because these are posted for the public meeting notices. The full packets are online. So we'll try to be sure to make sure you get the link in the reminder. But all the associated documents are linked as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see it in the reminder.
Okay, great. Masood, did you have a question?
Yeah, yes, kind of, sort of. I was actually still thinking, and I wanted to know more about the email searches, and it's now that you have mentioned that I should have looked at the reminder email a little bit deeply, I'm trying to find out which email address that you are referring to that we should be CCing if we are communicating via email, so our personal email is not subject to the search.
Yes, on the agenda at the bottom of it in the packet, it lists that email address for you that you can just copy and paste into any communications you have there.
I am looking at the since it is lots of information, either I need a little bit more time to look at it, or maybe one of you can share your screen, go through that all that information that was presented to us today and sent to us today by Anne. So that will be also much appreciated.
Yeah, Adriana, I can share the screen here and go through that.
Sharing.
Okay. So sure. Okay. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So on the page here on Washington County, so there's several ways to get to it. You can get to the calendar here, lists all of our open meetings and the salary commission. So you just click here. So it lists the purpose and everything at the top of it, the prior actions, the dates, listing all of you as the new members. And then if you scroll down, it'll always go to the current agenda. So this is the agenda for this evening's meeting of things we've gone through. So here is the bylaws that are copied here, the additional information, and we also put the bylaws up here in the links too, so you have access there. So this is where I will post with the chair and collaboration with Tony all of the next meetings and post an agenda that'll look just like this with whatever the topics for your discussions are for that meeting. So, and then as I'm taking notes for this meeting, they will replace this Zoom link after this meeting, will be draft notes for you to approve at your next meeting of, this is what was at the prior meeting. Does this capture what was discussed by this group?
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, and specifically the email address that
right at the bottom here, under here. So.
Okay, I see it now.
Yes. So, all right, I will stop and give it back to you, Adriana.
Any other questions for Adriana before she moves on to the bylaws?
I think I'm good.
Just one more question. Now that I know the email personal email can be subject to the search. If we wanted to replace our email, is there a process for that?
You can just send us whatever email you'd want to use, and that's what we would use going forward to communicate.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Adriana, I think back to you.
Good. Okay, great. Just want to make sure you can still see my screen. Yes, perfect. All right. So we're just going to hit the highlights of your governing document, which is the bylaws. For vacancies specifically, the alternate member automatically fills any vacant position. Any other vacancies are filled by the board. So if anybody ends up leaving from this group ends up leaving the commission, the alternate member would fill that in. But if somebody in addition to that leaves, then that would have to be filled by the board. The chair has the most authority. Actually, give me 1 second. The chair may remove any member who misses 3 consecutive meetings, and it may remove a member for cause. I can tell you, I'm coming up on 4 years here at the county. There's really only been one situation where not this particular commissioner, but another, somebody was removed for cause. It has to do with not following the policies that we have and that we've made you aware of, particularly today. As mentioned previously, meetings do require 72 hours public notice. Action requires a majority of members present at a meeting. This was changed in 2023. And the alternate member may attend and participate in meetings, but may not vote. Okay.
Oh, so that means that, so maybe a couple of questions. So how many members are supposed to be on the Selby Commission?
5.
So we need
4 today,
3.
right?
Yeah, you have 3 today plus the alternate in Ibrahim there.
I see. So we need 3, not counting the alternate, to take an action, correct?
Correct. Okay. Moving on, the commission selects a chair and vice chair at the first meeting. So that would be today. The alternate member cannot be chair or vice chair. Again, the chair sets the meeting date and agenda and may establish temporary subcommittees. The commission may amend the bylaws consistent with Charter Section 30 and the RNO that was issued in 2020. We, in the prior presentation, there were some changes that were recommended. I do understand that there was some desire maybe to amend the bylaws because, as I understand, we don't have human resource professionals, correct? So these are just some suggested amendments. I don't know, Tony, I guess it'll be your decision whether we have time to take the vote on that.
I think we have to elect the chair and vice chair first. So maybe we could present this and propose it if folks want to vote on it at the next meeting.
Okay.
I just have a
Sounds good.
question. How many times do we meet? How frequently do we meet the meetings?
We're going to go through that after we elect the chair and vice chair. We did share a proposed timeline. We do have a deadline that is kind of a hard deadline that we need to recommend something to the board at the first June meeting. Is that right, Karen?
So the entire work of this commission has to be completed before June 30th. So that's the drop dead deadline, but the board is going through starting their budget process. So this is the one item that's currently not included in the budget.
Right.
So more to be discussed.
Yes. So I would just, the second amendment that I propose or that I recommend here is just that it doesn't seem like the language was aligned when the change was made in 2023. So for example, we do have that requirement that at least 3 voting, that a quorum consists of at least 3 voting and or alternate members of the commission. But Section E is somewhat contradictory because it says that there needs to be, it gives an example. If 3 members are in attendance, all 3 have to vote in favor for any action to be approved. And this is, I think, contrary to what we intended, which is that we want to be able to vote by a majority. So if there are only 3 members, 2 would constitute a majority. Is my understanding.
Yeah,
No
so
unanimous vote, like it says here.
yes, because state statute does say you have to have, if you have a quorum of 3, all 3 have to vote in favor. So that's coming from state statute.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So we do need a unanimous vote.
okay.
Okay. Good
Oh,
to know.
just to clarify, so then does, but if we had 5 members here, would it just be majority vote?
It only has to be 3, so it's 50 plus 1.
Oh, I see, got it.
Great. So that is all I have. Thank you very much. I will be attending the other meetings, and as far as I know, will be your legal counsel. So if you ever have any questions, here is my contact information. Feel free to email or call me, and if I don't know the answer, I will research it and get back to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
I have a
Adriana.
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are questions for Adriana about the bylaws before she kind of wraps up this?
Go ahead, Ibrahim. Maybe you had the question. Why don't you go first?
Yes. Is this these emails? If the public requests these emails, could it be any time that they could request it, and that you guys have to provide these emails, including our phones, our personal cell phones?
So I'm going to research whether your personal information, such as your phone and your email, are subject to disclosure. But to answer, I think, your question about the when, yes. So as a public entity, we have retention requirements. So we have to keep certain records for a certain number of years. And as long as we have those records, if we receive a request, then they can be disclosed. So I think this is your question, which is, like if today or tomorrow we get a public records request for, the salary commission, and then we would be required to turn that over. If we get a request 5 years or 6 years down the line, it may be that we don't have to turn those documents over because they would have been purged in accordance with our retention schedule.
Okay.
Is that helpful? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And I think I'm going to remove myself from this. So, because there could be, there's a lot of information that I personally don't feel comfortable sharing, and I think it's absolutely not comfortable for me to hand over my cell phone or my emails to the public. So it's just, I'll remove myself from that.
Okay. Do we want to have a conversation? Do you want to have an offline conversation about that? I don't know, Tony or Kevin, how to address this.
Yeah, Ibrahim, I think so far, well, I think Adriana was going to research whether or not you would have to hand over your phone. I think it was more just any emails that would be pertaining to the salary commission business would be subject to, but your email could be searched based on that. So is that still uncomfortable for you? Or do you want to?
It is. Yes, it is. There's a lot of records that I keep for myself. There's a lot of things that I don't feel comfortable sharing. So just that's one of the reasons. A lot of medical records that I have in my email. a lot of things.
Thank you, Ibrahim. If you wouldn't mind just holding off on just making the decision right now, and let us connect with you outside of this meeting, just to make sure that we completely understand, and that we can make figure out if there's anything else we can do to support your being able to serve still, because we would love to have you. Does that sound okay?
Yes, we can talk after.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else?
I had a question, kind of unrelated to the bylaws. So at some point, we will be going over what our charter or expectations are. Sorry, maybe this is something that I should already know, but I don't. So just wanted to.
Thank you. Adriana, could we stop sharing for?
Sure thing.
Yeah. As far as I understand, there is not a charter for the Salary Commission. We do have the bylaws, and we have the order that created the Salary Commission. However, I do have this proposed timeline, which is based on the work of the previous Salary Commissions, which does lay out some of the tasks that have been previously done. But really the job of this Salary Commission is to recommend, to decide on the salary level for the board, and to make that recommendation into a report that we could share with the board. So that's the singular task that needs to be accomplished, as far as I understand it. Is that right, Kevin? Yes.
That is correct. Yeah. So included in the packet was what the final report of the 2021 commission, what work they put into it, and the 2023. So you have those as kind of your guiding blocks to that's how they viewed the task, but this is a new commission. So this is squarely in your purview of what you want to research, what you want to recommend. It's solely in your hands to decide and document your process and decision for the board.
I see.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Faisal.
And then one follow-up. So if we have questions on are the recommendation we are making meeting either the Oregon laws or some other existing laws, is that whose help do we get for those kind of questions?
Adriana's here for any legal support, but we also have other staff that we can inquire, that Clerk Moss and the county administrator's office can help us gather other information if that's interesting, if that's of interest to the commission. So, and I can talk through a little of that when I present the timeline, because it does have some of the things, and I can just share what I've learned about the previous commissions and how they conducted their business, and how I came to propose how we might try to think about structuring it this year, given the timeline that we have available to us.
Sounds good.
Is that okay? Any other questions at all?
We can go ahead.
Okay. So maybe we'll ask this question because, well, actually, no, we do need to select a chair and vice chair for the Salary Commission today. So these are the last two items: selecting the chair and vice chair, and then going over the meeting schedule and the timeline. I would like to see if we could elect the chair and vice chair right now, because we may want to make a decision. We may want to be able to weigh in on the timeline and moving forward, especially on the next, at least the next meeting, and confirming that we want to have the next meeting when we do. So is there any volunteers who would be willing to step up and in the role of either the chair or vice chair, and as stated in the bylaws, the role of the chair is to lead this salary commission and to preside over the meetings with my support and the support of the county staff who will be attending. And then the vice chair will take on that role in case the chair is not available. Is there
I'm
any?
happy to do vice chair. Not the chair.
Anyone interested in doing chair? So we got a vice chair self-nominated.
I guess if Masood is not volunteering, then it's me.
I was staying quiet because
Okay.
So I
what
can volunteer
entails.
to be chair.
Okay, so we have Faisal is nominating himself to be the chair. Madiha is nominating herself to be vice chair. Kevin, do we need to vote on that? Is that how we?
We
Yeah.
need to vote. So since we have nominees, so anyone can make the motion there, and anyone can second it since there's not chair. So
Right.
as I
Okay.
can second the motion for you, as I've heard it, it says to appoint Faisal Azim as chair and Medea Amjad as the vice chair of the salary commission. So does anyone want to make that motion?
I would like to
Well,
make that motion.
Okay.
And then do we have a second?
I let somebody else do
I
second.
second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion as Faisal as chair and Medea as vice chair, say aye.
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 All right. Congratulations, Mr. Chair and Madam Vice Chair. And there you go.
Thank you very much for stepping into those roles. Very much appreciated. Wonderful. So, so I'm going to share a draft timeline with you. I want to note that there have been 2 previous salary commissions before this one. They're appointed every other year. So I took some of the work of the timelines from the previous salary commissions to include in this timeline, and also knowing that they've done a lot of heavy lifting to learn a lot and create somewhat of a process already that we can benefit from, and also that we have actually limited time because we do have to accomplish this task basically within this next month. So this is how this draft timeline came together. So so got this here. Right now we're here, May 1st. This is the orientation. And then June 3rd is a proposed date for presenting the final report to the board at that time, where they would adopt the report or approve the report. So we're proposing that we have weekly meetings to lead us to that June date. And these are the proposed dates based on the schedule of the board and also based on the fact that our understanding was evening times were the best time for folks who were serving this year on the salary commission. And so these were the evenings most available. So I wanted to sort of at least propose these. So the first 2 are on the Tuesdays, then the 3rd week would be on the Thursday, and the final week would be on the Wednesday. Let's see, a couple of other things I wanted to note. So at each meeting, we would approve the previous meeting's notes. The other, so one thing to note is that the previous salary commissions actually did the work of researching the internal and external comparator salaries that were used as research, as data for the salary commission to consider in trying to set the salary level of the board. And this time we actually have already collected all of that data. And so we're proposing at the first session next week that we would actually go over some of that market analysis. And we have Mary Rowe, who is an HR professional, who is also sort of an independent external consultant to help present that and answer questions. The other big piece of research that previous commissions have done is actually conducting interviews to gather testimony from key parties, including all of the Board of County Commissioners, as well as a few other key staff members. And I think those names are included in the past reports that you can look at. So one thing I wanted to sort of propose is because we have limited time, we have to decide how we want to use our time. And so interviews with all the commissioners would need to be scheduled within these meeting times. And if you wanted to do other interviews as well, we'd have to find some time because there's not quite enough time within the proposed schedule. So wanted to share that a couple of other options other than what is presented here would be to actually consider either extending meeting times so that they're longer, so there could be additional interviews if that's something you want to do, or finding a way to actually ask questions and receive written testimony from all the folks that you want to collect information from. So there's a lot of information, but those were the two larger pieces of research I think that previous commissions have done. And so that was what took up a lot of their time throughout the meetings. Kevin, maybe I could ask if you have any other things that you would want to share about previous commissions and given the timeline that we have today, how this is kind of panning out.
Yeah, I can do it. Masood, did you have a question before I answer?
Yes. As I was looking through it, the Thursday to May 22nd, it says the top interview with commissioners. So what would be the purpose of that interview? We are not. I'm a little bit at loss. The second question that I would have is that we are supposed to define the formula to give the sort of a raise to the board. Is that not the charter or the goal of this commission?
The goal of this commission is not to give a formula, but to actually give the amount of what the salaries would be, and also how, whether or not COLA would be advised. I think those were the recommendations that have previously been offered. I think as Adriana shared about the history of the salary of the Board of County Commissioners previously was set by this automatic sort of formula, but now we have the Salary Commission to actually make the recommendation about what the actual number is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Masood, did you have any other?
And the first comment or question was that what is the purpose of the interview with the commissioners?
So the interview purpose is to get an understanding of what the job of a commissioner is. So if you look, there's no defined requirements or characteristics of anyone running for a commissioner. So it's basically state statute says they must be 18, they must reside in the county and the district for a year. That's the sole qualifications, and be a registered voter. So beyond that, the interviews would help you get to what does a commissioner actually do, and you can use that information to justify any number you may want to come up with. So the commissioners, they serve a variety on different boards for the counties, different special districts. So it would just be kind of getting to know what the commissioners do. So there are the prior interviews and the prior meetings that are in there. So you can watch the previous ones, or you can just formulate your own questions, whatever you want to know to help inform a decision you want to make.
I think for now, I would reserve the questions for later on. I mean, this is a little bit. Maybe I need to read the information that was sent to us in the reminder email today.
I have a question. We will be using COLA, of course, but will we have any data to compare with other counties?
Yes, that's exactly what the market analysis that's listed in this bullet point for Tuesday, May 6th. Mary Rowe is going to be able to present the data that's been gathered, which includes comparable salaries from other counties like that have similar sort of sizes and populations. And those were the ones I think that were previously also included with previous salary commissions, as well as internal salary comparators to county county roles that have that type of sort of comparable responsibilities.
Okay. Okay.
Will we be able to see the data before the meeting?
Yes, we will definitely be sharing that as part of the agenda for next week. Can I just see, are these dates, is there any dates of any of these dates that are not going to work for any of you? And we need to check
I have
the
a
other-
conflict on May 22nd, but if this works for everybody else, I can see if I can change.
I will make it work too. I have conflict on Tuesdays, but I'll try to reschedule my kids' swimming class.
They got all summer.
So-
Just kidding.
Yeah.
So I have two daughters that are athletes, and also it's going to be a big problem for me because one daughter plays softball in different park, and the other daughter, I have to take her because she plays in a different park. So I know I'm going to miss 2 or 3 consecutives. So that's going to be a huge, huge problem for me as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Is there
And-
a possibility of the time could be like 6:45 or 7 or?
Oh, yes, the times are whatever, as you as the vice chair and the chair, whatever time you guys want to set, it is squarely in your purview. So this was just suggestions, but whatever schedule you want to select, we will work with on the county side. And so the previous salary commission, they set the salaries for the 2-year period. So you do have that option if you wanted to set for 2 years. So you would just meet for however long you take for this decision. Or you could say, we only want to set it for this time period and then come back next year if you want to change it. So those are additional options on the table for whatever you want to decide.
Okay.
Salary changes happen once every year, but the commission meets one every 2 years. So it's basically 2 changes that we are looking at.
So the board does a budget every year. So the prior salary commission, they just decided to set for their realm of the 2 years, they just decided to set it for the next 2 years. So so normally this year we're trying to find members, so it took longer to do it. So normally this work would take place like February to April on it. So the prior salary commission, they had a few months to do it, to do the research in 2 months, whereas this kind of the time crunch, as Tony mentioned. So that's kind of why it's a little truncated. But yeah, this schedule is squarely up to your decision and discretion.
I just would like to
Given that
ask.
the board has already, like you guys have already figured out the dates, I'll change my conflict also so that these dates can work. And Madhi, I'm okay with 6:45 or 7 if that works better for everybody. If other people are okay with it
Works
also.
for everybody else. I would appreciate a 7 p.m. Then I'm done and home
7 p.m. for all
I'll
of
make it work.
for the Tuesdays.
just the
just-
Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Tuesday, May 6th at 7. Tuesday, May 13th at 7. And then Thursday, May 22nd, 6:30 we can keep?
Yes.
Okay. And Wednesday, May 28th at 6:30 we can keep. Is that right? And then we can, so this can be a bit of a working document for us as we decide, as you make the decisions on what activities you want to do. And then also that Tuesday, June 3rd, we'll kind of figure out more information, that presentation and what time that will be.
So I heard two pieces of information that we need to present to the board on June 30th, but also on June 3rd. So maybe that's not clear to me.
Kevin, do you want to? So I think that we wanted to complete the process to present to the board, but then they need to actually incorporate it into the budget. So they think they wanted their June.
So currently the boards, they're scheduled to adopt their budget on June 17th. So they have to adopt it before June 30th. But the charter says you have to complete your work before June 30th. So the June 3rd came about as getting it ahead of the board's budget committee on the 17th. So it could be incorporated if you need a little more time. You could present it at the budget meeting on June 17th before they would take action on their budget. So it would be up to our finance staff to figure out how to incorporate your recommendation into it. But if you need a little more time, you could. So the third was
but
just.
If we do it on June 3rd, it just makes their life easier also.
It makes it, yeah. So what normally happens with the presentation, either the chair or vice chair we put it on the agenda with the information, and you just present to the board your findings of it, and then the board takes action. The prior ones, the board is very supportive of all of our volunteers stepping up to serve. So the first part is they will thank you all for your service, and then they will take action on it. But they kind of have to accept your recommendation because you are the independent presenting it to them. So you have total say, and the board cannot change yours other than if you suggest a COLA. Some of them decided not to take a COLA over the years or to take it. So that's the part they have some wiggle room if you go that route. But if you talk straight salaries, they kind of have to accept what you are presenting.
Okay. And if we need some wiggle room, we have June 10th too, right?
We could.
Well, no, we could, if we wanted to take June 3rd instead, to do as a work session and then present at the 17th. Is that what you said, Kevin?
Yeah, because currently, so this recommendation has to be adopted at a formal board meeting, and currently right now we have board meetings on the 3rd, the 17th, and the 24th.
So, but it's actually, so essentially, if we needed that extra time, and decided to present at the June 17th, we could have potentially 2 more work sessions if we included June 3rd and possibly June 10th. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
And when would we need to tell them if we are not doing it on June 3rd or doing it on June 17th? When will we need to decide of that?
So I publish the agenda. So the budgeted agenda I will be publishing on June 10th for the 17th. So I published that a week in advance. So that really does open up the 3rd, that then we could include that information to the finance department as for the 17th.
I see. But you will need to publish the June 3rd agenda by May 27th. So May 27th is when we need to decide what are we doing for June 3rd, basically.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So we can thank you for coming up with this schedule to help us. Let's start with this. And then I think by May 13th or May 22nd, we can see whether we are at risk. And then we can decide as a backup option for June 17th. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. So I will also add to the May 13th bullet points, the discussion of the timeline and activities, so that we be sure to review it at that time as well, based on this conversation. Okay.
Kevin, I think Kevin mentioned, or Tony, you mentioned the working document. I'm assuming public has access to be able to read, but not able to update the working document. So is there some permission that we need, or?
So I don't think we have to publish I think we can have our working document not be published. It's only if there was a public records request that we would have to present that as part of it. I believe, is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, I think if you're not taking any action.
Yeah, so if you're discussing it, we should put it as part of the packet. So it can be worked on your subcommittees, and then whatever document you have, you could just add it to the packet and then have further discussions and make any changes at a public meeting on it.
Okay. You is the information of where the documents we can work together on, are they posted? Where are they posted, and do we have access to them? Is that something, Kevin, that you'll figure out for us, or?
So I can so in the final report is the information that the previous salary commission did. So that is open to you and any members of the public. So you can look at those documents in the packet that I included in this packet to get you started. And then the next week, Tony can have the other consultant with all the newer data. We can add that to the packet. So for this May 6th, I would be probably getting it probably tomorrow to publish that packet with you to review. Here's your agenda for the next meeting. Here's what's included on it. And then you can give me the thumbs up and I could publish tomorrow with that. So Tony, I can get in touch and have that information so we can include it in the packet for you guys to review and then come to the meeting to discuss.
Okay.
Is there a plan to get 2 more commissioners on the salary commission, or is it going to be
There
the
are
3 of us?
2 more. I'm sorry. I believe there are 2 others who have signed up. They might not have been available today. So we can follow up to make sure. And if I'll talk to staff to see if there are other folks who had applied, if those other 2 folks are not able to serve.
So if those people are not able to serve, still the quorum is complete to go ahead with the work.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just that all our decisions will need to be unanimous going
Yes.
forward if we don't have anybody else.
Correct.
It hopefully should not be an issue between 3 people.
If you don't mind, could we go back to the May 6th? So if these activities that are highlighted for May 6th, if that looks good for the agenda, we can at least maybe Clerk Moss, you could actually use that as the basis of the agenda for since we have not a lot of time before you have to publish it. Does that look good to everyone? And is there anything else you'd want in this next meeting next week?
So the interview questions, I think, is still not clear to me. And then final report template. I think everything else looks okay to me. The finalized interview questions, I'm still exactly not sure about, but maybe going through the past report will help me. So that's one thing that I'm not sure about.
Maybe you'll remove that one and we'll just keep it with the rest of this, and maybe we'll add a discussion about what activities. Actually, that's part of the discussion of the timeline and activity. So that's already in there. So I think
instead of saying finalized interview questions, can we say initial list of interview questions or discuss interview questions maybe?
Yes.
And I guess we can start the interviews and we can kind of modify the interviews as like we can change the questions, I guess, from May 13 to May 22 also, right? So it doesn't have to be a complete final list before we start the interview.
I think the big thing is you'll have to decide if you do want to conduct interviews or if you want to try to collect that information in a different way. So
I was going to say that probably but I'm not really sure if there is any merit for the interviews or not. So for me, I would like to discuss the merits of of interviewing those commissioners. I mean, given the fact that today is May 1st and we are talking 5 days from today to have another major meeting and to say that we wanted to interview, and these are the interview questions, that is very short timeline, and I'm not really sure that I will be able to finish even reading all the material that has been given to us today. So one agenda topic that I would like to have is to have say that, hey, now that we have looked at the package, let's have a package discussion from the previous meeting, previous years, and say that if we have any questions about that, and what are the learnings from us from there for us.
Okay, so am I hearing you right, Masood, that maybe for next week, instead of reviewing final report template, we could review the final reports from the last two commissions so that you can see.
Yeah, let's plan on saying that we can review them offline, but the agenda item could say discuss and any questions from the previous report.
Yeah.
And then the finalized interview strategy, finalized interview question, instead of that, let's say that the agenda item can say strategy for commissioner interviews. And maybe one direction might be no interviews, but we can discuss it during. Maybe that should be the agenda item.
Okay.
I'm also counting on the fact that the previous year's reports will have some, if they have interviewed the commissioners in the past, that we may be able to look at those sample questions and say, well, does it matter? Does it make sense or not? And we can adopt and adapt some of those questions for us if we do choose to go forward.
Yeah. So to clarify, the previous ones, the written questions were just asked as the commissioners were invited. So there's a little bit in the notes that I took on those ones of kind of the questions asked and how they're asked, but what exactly the questions they asked is going to be probably in those former videos that will be where you can get what was actually asked of the commissioner. So currently right now, just give you a breakdown of the commissioners. 3 of the commissioners were elected in 2018, so they started 2019. And those 3, Chair Harrington, Commissioner Pam Treese, Commissioner Jerry Willey, were elected for a second term in 2022. And then Commissioner Nafisa Fai was elected in 2020, and we just elected a new commissioner, Jason Snyder, in the election of 2024. So those are the 5 current serving commissioners. So if you wanted, there is 2 other former commissioners. If you chose that route, we could help facilitate that if needed. But that is the current makeup of the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. So one thing that I was trying to figure out but keeping quiet was like the commissioner term applies to us volunteers as well as the kind of elected officials, I guess. So thank you for those comments. I think that makes it more clear for me. Will you be taking notes in every meeting? Because it's super helpful today. I probably would not have been able to keep up with the discussion and try to take notes, but is that going to be our responsibility in later meetings, or is that something that you cover for us?
No, so I take shorthand notes of it. So these notes will be draft included in the next week's packet. So as soon as I post that tomorrow, you'll have access to these notes to say, okay, did he get correctly what we discussed?
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Right. So we'll update this with the times that we discussed, as well as the updated agenda items that we've discussed, knowing that we can come back to this and continue to tweak with the subject matter of each of these meetings as we go forward. Any other questions, thoughts about the activities or the timeline?
I think we have a good
Uh-huh.
start. Yeah, and once we are done
Yeah.
reading everything, we'll know better the next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me also reading the last two commissions report probably will help me a lot to get get a handle on exactly what we are trying to accomplish. I'm starting to see why interviewing the commissioners is actually makes sense. But yeah, we can discuss it in next meeting.
Perfect. And I will say, the website, the Salary Commission website with all of the previous agendas and the videos is super helpful. So I highly recommend if you want to take a look at any of those materials, and all the notes are in there and all the different attachments for each of the agenda packets are in there as well. So there's a treasure trove of information. Okay, I think that is it. Kevin or Adriana, anything else that you have that you want to share?
So what I can do is once I publish the agenda tomorrow, I can email all of you, copy the Solid Commission inbox on it, and say, here is the link to the agenda and all the materials. So you have that for your review. And then it'll have the Zoom link on it on the agenda itself. So you won't have to go searching for it, calendars. It'll be right on top of the agenda. So right on top of what I sent you.
And Kevin, I will update this right now and send it to you so you have the most up-to-date one to include in the agenda as well.
So Kevin, can I give you the email I want to use for all official work? It's going to be my middle name, Faisal, Fais as in Sam, Al, dot a dot public@gmail.com.
Okay, so just to confirm, faisal.public@gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have a change of email address?
I will send you one after I have to create one for myself. Something that I distance myself from the private email to versus the public email.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I think Ibrahim, if you're still here, I think you might want to do that also. In case your email is on the cloud, you might have a way to say that you don't have to hand over any personal devices as long as you can hand over the access to your online account. So that might actually help with your privacy concerns as well.
Yeah, I do have a lot of information in my personal email that I never will.
Yeah, so I would recommend create a separate one for the for this, and that way you can keep the two separate.
But the other thing is that I think in the beginning of the meeting, she mentioned something about conflict of interest. Now, if I personally know a commissioner, then what is the next step?
So are you saying, do you personally know as a friend, or is like a relative or family that you are?
Yes,
I'm
I
assuming
personally
many people
know this
that.
person very, very well, and consider her as like a family. And I didn't realize until Kevin said the name, and I was like, "Oh no!" So yeah, that's another conflict of interest.
Adriana, did you want to?
Yeah, so the correct action under the ethics rules would be to disclose that to the board, and so the board can decide whether that is a conflict that they're willing to live with, I guess, or whether it would be problematic. But yeah, if you personally
It's
know
Nafisa.
that, yeah, so you would essentially be making a recommendation, you know, for her salary.
Yeah, that will be a very conflict of interest for me. Absolutely. That is not something I want to get myself involved.
Okay, thanks, Ibrahim. We'll follow up with you just to confirm everything after today. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Chair, Vice Chair, Masood, anything else that you want to raise before we conclude our meeting?
I do not have anything else at this minute. Well, I do. Who should I send the new email address? Just to Kevin or to?
Yeah, so if you want to just send it to the Salary Commission one, I
Okay.
monitor that box and I'll add it in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is probably maybe next. I'll just ask for now. If we need an area for some working meetings, do we use the county commission or do we create some area for our own?
So are you talking somewhere to a space to do some work for the Salary Commission?
Physically.
Exactly. Let's say that we are doing some analysis and we want to put it there.
Yeah, so at the county offices in Hillsborough, we can accommodate and provide space for you to work out of.
Oh, sorry, I meant like web space or some like to store data and stuff like so, or can we just use the Google Docs for my own account that I'm willing to kind of open to public?
Not if you're going to communicate to everyone. So it would be best you would send any information to the Salary Commission inbox so we could create a folder for the site and save it there and put it in the packets. But yeah, not that way. Mm-hmm.
So, Kevin, just to clarify, and maybe Adriana, in terms of if we're creating documents, so I created the timeline document, we wouldn't be able to do a shared document in terms of being able to. Okay.
Two people could, but not shared with a third. So that's the prior commission. They gathered the data did an Excel spreadsheet and shared it between the two of them. And then we PDF'd it and took it to a public meeting for everyone to discuss the work they did.
You could do it. It's just problematic for the rest of your documents. So yeah, I agree with everything that Kevin said. So
Okay.
it's better if you do it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else.
Well, with that, normally there's a motion to adjourn, but because you've completed everything on your agenda, Mr. Chair, you could just say we are adjourned and we'll see everyone on May 6th is there no further business.
We are done with the agenda, so we'll adjourn for today if there's no other business.
Okay. Well, have a wonderful evening all, and the video of this meeting, I will have our IT staff put it up also on the portal page tomorrow morning too. So if there's anything you want to go back and watch, any additional questions, it'll be there tomorrow morning for you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. See you next week. And we'll
Bye.
be in community. Bye-bye.